So yeah, so Tokers, we decided to come up with, obviously, we do have a love for the cannabis. So we wanted to share our love for the cannabis, of course, with our community, but we also have an equal love for technology, the advancements of technology, how it can be used to make our everyday lives just a little bit easier, you know? So again, that's the whole idea for why we are coming up with this show. As far as preliminary plans or setups or what we're going to be doing every time, that can always change, and I do recommend you guys get involved in my Discord or shoot me DMs of specific topics you want to cover. If I don't cover things during our shows, we can then look forward and plan those out for the next show, the next Tuesday. You know, so I do want it to be like a collaborative event too. So these will be the times, you know, obviously anytime people can always reach out for help, but specifically, I'd like to try to focus these kind of days and times more specifically towards the assisting with streams, setups, you know, anything of that sort, chatbots, overlays. Even if you're not even doing it for streaming, there's other things, you know, technology-wise that we can help and assist with too. So if you just like creating graphics, we know a few sites and stuff for those too. And anything and everything that I will be showing today and moving forward, I will always try to stay to my best abilities of keeping it 100% freeware. And so if you're not sure what freeware is, freeware means that it don't cost anything. So there's ways and means of getting all this super high quality content, design aspects, what you see in people's streams, and you're like, holy crap, how do they do that? There's a lot of ways of doing it for free, and making it look equal, if not better. So yeah, so today's kind of main focus is basically, it's going to be pretty basic stuff. So it's going to be OBS setup. We'll kind of go over like bit rates, canvas, output resolutions, some of the system settings, and for those that have like a pure AMD system, so that means your processor and your graphics card are AMD, I do have a special setting that you can use in your OBS, and it just fine-tunes everything just a little bit better. I will look further into Intel versions of the same thing, but I do have it for AMD because technically AMD is probably one of the more harder hardwares to get just right for streaming. It always kind of has been. And then we will cover OBS Virtual Cam. We'll go over some of the web settings, as far as like the browser settings for those, the web connection, which is the method of streaming with webcam. And both these can be done in OBS or Streamlabs. And then we will go over the chatbots, Nowfinity, and Streamnow.pro. And I'll explain how both are technically required for different purposes, or maybe future purposes you might want to use the bots for. They're not generally necessary, but at least the initial setups of them I would recommend, because it's two bots that technically become one bot. It's how Younow kind of has them set up, you know. And then I will share a few of the graphic sites also today, to give you guys some ideas where to go on the computer, and these can even be accessed on the phones to get some of the designs, graphics, stickers, things of that nature that you want to do. Even if it's like current designs and stickers you have, you can use these tools to re-edit them, adjust them, make them a little bit better, you know, whatever you want to do, make changes to them. It's very universal throughout the whole thing. And again, the plus side is they're all free. You know, you can't beat that. I am definitely all about free 99. And yeah, any point in time you guys have questions, it is a pure open Q&A moment too, so definitely don't hesitate to ask. These are the moments and times, obviously. I hope for people to ask questions, try to get answers, things of that nature. If you know others too that are struggling or need the help, definitely pass them on this way, you know. Send them my way, even if, you know, they're a little afraid to ask and just kind of want to lurk out and just see what, you know, things they can pick up from us. Have them stop on in, lurk around. Like, my idea and goal is the ability to get everyone up to par or standards that they want to see out of their streams, you know. Not what they expect people to see, but like what makes them look at their stream and be like, I'm happy to provide that content, you know. And a lot of this can be done real easy. A few simple tools, a couple things downloaded. Strong systems, weak systems. There's technically ways they can all be utilized, you know. We'll see. We'll see how it rolls, right? That's all you can do. All you can do is try. And then I figure, you know, we'll have guest hosts and stuff come up and around. Some that will have more knowledge in areas than others. So it'd be great to bring up, you know, their expertise. Obviously get their insights on things. Even like to look for, you know, later on guests coming up and just kind of telling their stream stories or their adventures or their tips and tricks that they've kind of learned along the ways. A lot of that stuff, you know, we like to kind of get involved overall throughout this whole process here. So as with usual shows, we'll start with a little Toki Toke here. Get our minds right, you know. I was happy to get the events put up on the Younow calendar. Multi-streaming method with Younow, which is their simulcast method. Those are ways that you can shoot off the same video you're doing here on Younow without extra resources to your YouTube and to a Twitch. Again, if you're not even trying to focus on those sites, the nice thing is those sites keep a longer VOD, a longer video recording replay of your videos than here on Younow. So always keep that in mind, especially if you're trying to look forward ways to make small edits or videos or snippets of your stuff, you know, clips. As a non-partner, your videos are deleted here immediately, I think, or maybe 2 days. Whereas if you're or having a recording go off simulcast wise to Twitch or YouTube, you're going to have that video recording. On Twitch, it's like 30 days. On YouTube, it's forever until you delete it. So a video to get people introduced on how to set up, and for those that were looking to stream over here. So I do have that we can grab snips out of. That way if it does interfere, because I'm already streaming, so showing certain parts of OBS may or may not work out. But we'll see what we can pop off here. You guys already have accounts, so this is just kind of getting over the basic preliminary setup here for people looking to actually gain access. You have two options, either a camera go live or OBS version go live. If you like, you can simulcast to your Twitch and your YouTube accounts. So more or less it does have So these here parts for the OBS connection, this is what we will be discussing on when it comes to virtual cam setups or OBS connections. So how we went here and clicked on go live on Younow, this is where if anyone's asking if you're streaming through virtual cam or if you're streaming through OBS, this is what we're going to be more or less pertaining or asking about how you connect to stream here on Younow. So even with OBS, you can still technically use the virtual cam. So you're using all the features, all the benefits of OBS without actually using OBS. So you still are upping your game, upping your quality, getting extra effects that you want to add to your streams, without even still actually using OBS itself. OBS itself is actually just going to define that quality. It's going to bring that quality up. So when you stream from the website or from virtual cam on here on Younow, you're streaming at a 2500 minimum KBS bitrate. So KBS bitrate, what that is your connection to the server that Younow provides that allows you to give out your live feed to others. So it's a bare minimum connection speed, hence why people are able to stream from their phones with ease or just pop up a webcam, and it's pretty simple, pretty basic, straightforward. Whereas if you use OBS, you can up that. Okay, so now I'm not only going to just produce a 380 stream, I'm going to produce a 720 stream, which is the highest quality as of right now that Younow will produce for your streams. Generally, it will upscale what your current bitrate is and try to make it look as good as 720 as possible, but you can ensure it's 720 with the number of a bitrate change that would be put into your OBS side of it. So here, if we're speaking in terms of OBS setup, so how that's what we're going to be talking in this video that you're actually, we have you watching. You're going to go ahead and click the OBS setup. If you do have your socials connected, I highly recommend, if you have a Discord, get that connected on there. If you need help, we can also show ways of how people can get their Discords connected. Obviously your Twitter, and then if you do have Facebook, a fan page on Facebook. That's the big key difference. Facebook is useless for you now unless you actually have a fan page that is created. So always keep that in mind too. If you're clicking that thinking it's posting somewhere, I don't think it actually posts anywhere unless you actually have a fan page. I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen anything post on mine, even though I do click and don't click, click it sometimes. This is also the area if you are simulcasting or are curious about simulcasting, and what that is that's multi-streaming or restreaming. All three terms mean the same thing, just means you're streaming to more than one place. So simulcast, built into Younow, they have it set where you can automatically connect your Twitch and your YouTube channel. So the moment you hit go live, your videos are here on Younow, they're streaming on Twitch side, and they're streaming on YouTube side, all at the same time. So then you have viewers, you would have your viewer base from everywhere at that point, or if you're trying to grab people and advertise, which is what I use multi-streaming for. Every day I'm always streaming here on Younow, but I have a stream that goes off onto Twitch, I have a stream that goes to Kick, I have one that goes to Twitter, and I have one that will go to YouTube, and then occasionally we'll shoot one over on the Steam game page. I have all the chat, I have everything set up and available so I can view and monitor it, but my main point and purpose is those that come in on those sites, because where I have placed home is here on Younow. So generally wherever your home platform is, that's what you would do, is you would draw traction from those sites and be like, hey, you want to see what's going on, get in the conversations with my actual community instead of just reading it on chats. Come over here to Younow. This is my home platform. You may not always see me on this platform, so if you don't want to miss out, be sure to follow. That's easy ways to get people to interact and come and tell them about Younow. So most will probably be like, well, what's that? What's Younow? Boom, now you have a prime opportunity to kind of explain, advertise, talk about your streams, talk about what you do, all that stuff. I know it's a little bit of a sidetrack, but I'm just trying to give you a lot of background data of how just this particular ability is actually very useful compared to like many other platforms. Actually, it's a pretty unique ability too. So we're going to go ahead and click the OBS configuring setup, which is that bottom page there. And if you were just strictly only going from webcam or an OBS virtual cam, you would choose the top option. Plow Dog, thank you so much for the smiling emoji. Hey, I appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and proceed this video. Have a built-in multi-stream. Whatever. So basically what we were just kind of explaining here is we were recommending and showing you what like Younow wants as a minimum requirement. If you're looking at like what settings OBS is kind of looking for, these are going to be your minimum setting requirements. So you're going to be talking about the bitrate of 2500. That's where I got that number from. The output resolution is no bigger than 720. And then recommended frame rate is 30 FPS. Oh, you're all good? Okay. Like I said, I'm going to do a combo of both. The playing of the videos is more or less just to try to create the visual aids that I can't necessarily recreate because I'm in the middle of a stream, so I can't get to these pages, you know what I mean? Boom. Broadcast, that's your title for it. Go ahead and hit next. You can upload a broadcast photo, so if you have any thumbnails or anything like that set up, your logos, brands. So a nice thing about this area here too is it will save 3 of your most recent uploaded banners. I call these banners, or also known as like thumbnails. If you're familiar with YouTube wise, they're called thumbnails. Basically you create these designs. They can be created in Canva. They can be created in Vista Create. They can be created on Paint or Paint 3D even. There's a lot of few sources that you can utilize to actually get some of these designs accomplished, and they make them look really good. They even give you templates. So you're really just kind of like editing or designing what the template looks like to what you want it to look like. So this is really helpful too, and this is what people are going to see when they're skimming on the front page of Younow. This is the first image they see of your stream before they hover over and it actually starts playing some of your video. So these are the eye catchers you kind of want to have out there. Some people keep them the same ones forever, which is fine, you know. Others change them up almost daily. Some keep them to specific events they're doing or what their stream is specifically about. That's probably one of the best means of using them, is to more or less focus what your particular stream is about at that moment. So you'd want them to explain. So like I've been doing mine all this month, advertising my birthday month, letting people know that, hey, the 25th, you know, that's when my birthday's coming. But it also has indicators of like what else I do as well on a stream. So that's where your title will come into play too. You combine the two together and kind of make them work with each other, you know. What have you, if it's a special event, be it some kind of a social media post that you had created, you can actually put that right in here, and that would be your thumbnail when you're actually going live here. And once you have that done, all you're left to do now is go back over here to the OBS or Streamlabs side. So this is important too. A lot of people miss this step or are not sure what to do on this step. They're wondering why they can't hit the go live button with OBS setting, even if their OBS is sitting up running looking at them. The main reason is because it's a two-way street. Younow was never originally made for OBS connection or Streamlabs connection. So they made it where it can pick up that connection more or less like a telephone call. The moment you hit live on OBS, it's more or less picking up the phone and it's calling Younow. Now you got to go to the Younow page, hit go live, because you're answering that phone now. Easiest way to kind of explain it, you know. So your main thing is you would have to go over here to OBS, and then you would hit that start stream. Get in here. You're going to go into your settings section. Once you're inside your settings section, you want to head over to the stream section. From here, there will be a drop down of lists. You want to go ahead and hit show all. You will then. This is also very important. So now we're in the settings for the OBS section. So for this, OBS and Streamlabs do have their own name section, which is a blessing. And a big reason is because they have at least made that connection with each other, but Younow is not what's considered a standard streaming platform. As far as RTMP, all your other platforms connect that way. Twitch, Facebook, Trovo, DLive, Mimo, you name it, any of those platforms connect through an RTMP. So what that is more or less, it's a website with a special password code. Both are needed to give you access to stream. Younow only needs a special access code, which is your stream key. So when you hit Younow, that's going to pull up these settings you'll see here in the video. And all you're literally entering is your stream key in this section to make that basic connection. Then go there and actually search for Younow. So it already has the Younow.com server. You're just putting your stream key in there that you get from your settings page underneath your profile. When you click your profile pic, go down to settings, you would see stream key in that listing right there on that page. Do not give that stream key out to anybody. If anyone sees it, gets access to it, you can reset it here on your platform. You can hit the reset button and it will regenerate you a brand new stream key. Reason why this key is so important to keep safe: if I have this stream key and I'm doing the same thing, I'm now streaming as you, and I'm not you. How you doing, Wit? So it's a big privacy, it's a big security factor. Anyone with this stream key can more or less stream your account without you actually be streaming. Which is really scary. If someone wants to use that for malicious intent, you know, there's really bad people out there. So always keep your data safe, you know. A lot of people will question and wonder why sometimes I'll show some of these things. Usually if I'm showing it, of course, is by default Younow.com. Grab your stream key. Of course, if you didn't remember where to grab your stream key, that is back on this page here. Click and copy. Do you have that done? Go ahead to your output settings based on your preference where you're streaming at. So now this is another important factor. This is where certain settings will come into place based off of what kind of graphics card you have. So what I mean by that is if you have an NVIDIA graphics card or if you have an AMD graphics card. These settings here will make a major difference, but they will be the same regardless. No matter what, like for the most part, the basic parts of the main components will require the same shit. You know, there's not going to be a difference between the two. Thank you for inviting your family, Wit. So as you see, under output, you'll have streaming, your encoder. You'll usually have an HW or just a standard 264 encoder. What those mean is 264 with like no HW, no fancy letters next to it. A 264 standard is going to be running off of your CPU, your processor. So if you have an Intel processor or an AMD processor, your stream is going to be using that. And that's where you kind of want to keep that in mind. Does your computer have a better graphics card or does it have a better processor? This is where you would determine what kind of set you're going to put, you know, for your OBS settings. For me, I can go either way. Many modern PCs, you can generally go either way, especially streaming here to Younow. That is kind of another somewhat plus. You don't require like the biggest bang that you usually would need for like other platforms to produce the quality here. Here compared to any other platform, it's a very special technique called SFU, that gives us such a fast connection quality. Gives us the ability for the moment I'm ending a sentence, you're literally hearing me within 1 second later. Only other platform that can come close to that is Twitch, or I mean, is YouTube. That's the only one that has any technology capable to mimic what we get to do here on Younow. So always keep that in mind. So basically, your rate control, I always recommend, no matter which one you're doing, to put it for CBR. What CBR is standing for is it's a constant rate. It's not going to fluctuate. It's not going to change. This is going to be your set standard rate. Again, now this will come down to your internet connection. This is where a lot of people are going to require to know like what their internet connection is. And that can actually be quite easily done. You can go to a very common one that people do is speed test, speedtest.net. It's going to be by Ookla. And basically what this is doing is it's going to run a test. Now obviously my test is going to be a little wonky because obviously I'm streaming. So yeah. Who knows what this is going to look like. But and this PC is on Wi-Fi too that you're looking at. So that always makes a big difference. Wi-Fi is not the greatest connection. If you can hardline, you will save yourself so much trouble. I promise. Thank you, LD. I actually forgot about that. So this will just take a few moments to run your test. So as LD was stating, Windows also has a speed test. Yeah, look at Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi connections are like shit, you know? They are not good for streaming. Yeah, do not recommend them. But anywho, so I just wanted to use this as an example factor to show you what's important, what you're looking at for streaming and where bitrate comes into play. So obviously with this upload speed, if I were to try to stream off my Wi-Fi, you ain't gonna see me. You ain't even gonna see my stream. That is crap. If you have that kind of upload speed, you probably should not be streaming. At least not from OBS. I mean, we'll say that just clear as day right now. Generally, we'll say the lowest spectrum of a standard upload speed is going to probably be up to about 10 megabytes. Obviously, you want a higher end megabyte speed of in your upper 20s pushing forward to be able to like totally run anything and everything that you should have no problems running. And you're not going to be using all of it, but you also want to make sure you have some leadway in case you have fluctuations. So if you do have fluctuations, it is a big factor to know exactly what your limit is. So as we kind of come back here, that's where that bit rate is. So 6,000. So more or less think of your bit rate and think of your upload speed. You're going to double that. So or you would half it. Is the easiest way to explain it. So let's say I had a 12 upload speed, and that's megabytes per second upload. I'm going to go ahead and put that at half. I'm only using 50% of that resource. That's at 6,000 kbs. Now, am I necessarily safe at half? Yeah, that's a really good factor. Most stream people or like stream coaches, they'll say 70% is a good safety factor. I kind of disagree with that based on certain people's technology, because you can't say that with everyone's tech, what their certain setups are. You don't want to give them that small of a buffer without the ability to kind of fluctuate or test what their technology can actually hold or contain. So I always recommend at least a 50 split. So let's say you're sitting at 10, put that at 5,000. Again, here on Younow, it's only minimum 2,500. That's all that we saw that you bare minimum need to stream here on Younow. If your megabyte upload speed is only 5, I would stay at that 2500. Especially if you're on a Wi-Fi connection, definitely don't try to grab any extra out of that, because with Wi-Fi, there is always fluctuations. Wi-Fi is never stable. You could run that speed test on a Wi-Fi connection 17 times in a row, and I promise you will never have the same results. And actually, even on a hardline connection, there's a very, very small difference in some of the fluctuations, but you will maintain on a hardline a very close, almost, identical every time. Your uploads will always be a little weird, but for the most part, they'll be pretty consistent. That's why if you can hardline, and by hardline, I mean an internet cord into your computer, into your router, or your Wi-Fi device that gives you internet. It eliminates that wireless connection. Because in some places too, you got a big semi that drives by, there goes your Wi-Fi, it's gone. You got a plane flying above, boom, that can cause interference with your Wi-Fi, like you're going to cut out on stream. So it's a lot of time, that's why that's probably one of the most important factors, knowing of how you should stream, or what you're able to push out for a stream. So you always want to keep it as constant. Obviously, once you gain more knowledge in here, you can test some other settings to kind of get some other things and results, but we're talking just an overall universal kind of set. So we have our CBR, we have our bitrate. Keyframe interval, by default, it will generally be set, I do believe it's 0, which 0 is auto. With a lot of stuff, if you kind of let stuff be auto, for the most part, it will work. When it comes to streaming, I don't trust auto. So never have, never will. I don't know, something about the keyframe, I just don't trust the way it controls it. It always seems to just act a little weird. So standard rule of thumb, a good number is always at 2-second keyframe interval. And that's the process of your frames or processing at that every 2 seconds. And then for presets, these are going to differ, so I can actually show mine here. We should be able to. So welcome to the crazy looking world here. Yeah, good to have 2 point of views, most definitely, most definitely. So then presets for quality, this again is where it's going to come down to a few things. If you are streaming basically through your CPU, your processor, or if you're streaming through your graphics card, these are a couple things I would play into factor. And if they are either pretty up-to-date products or not so relevantly up-to-date, a good standard base point is always going to be balanced. I always set it as balanced. It's a very equal, it's exactly what it is. Equal quality, equal performance. From there, you can critique and test to see what your system's capable of messing with. But for general universal purposes, we're going to say just switch it to balanced. Your profile, again, based on what you're doing on your PC, if you're going to be using a lot of it for gaming, also with your streams, but you don't have the strongest PC, I would then actually set this as a high, not a main priority. The reason for is if it's a high priority, it can take precedence over your video game. It can take sources from your video game to make sure this stream is always going. Where if it's main, it'll dedicate a standard set amount of sources, constantly always knowing for what is usually used for OBS, and it will leave open the remaining leftovers always for your game. But it would make a game as a priority if it did need it. So a couple things that keep in a factor. I would definitely stay between main main. Main is like a basic standard point for that. And that's not gonna like screw any like major settings up for what most are doing here on Younow. Getting that stream through, you just want it to stay running. B-frames, now B-frames has always been a controversial issue among any platform, any streamer. What it really comes down to, I think, is more of a region thing. I have noticed in certain regions, even based on how well people's internets are, B-frames are the devil in disguise. And whereas to others, B-frames are their bread and butter and they swear by them. It is a really weird, but I think it's how the data gets preceded based on what regions, like how their internet is processing data. I think is where it's kind of coming down to. So I never honestly used B-frames. Actually, on all my other platforms, I never used B-frames. When I came here, I was told to add one B-frame to it. And it was also recommended as an AMD thing to add only one B-frame from another stream coach that I was in touch with. And so I tried it, and it seemed to kind of help peak my stuff out pretty well. Tonight, I don't know, we're having some weird fluctuations. I'm dropping some frames tonight, but actually way more than usual. I've never hit 6%. This is pretty high. So on their general rule of thumb, I would either start off trying with 0 B-frames. If it seems like it's laggy or a little weird, then only put it to 1. I would never go any higher than 1 B-frame, no matter how big or bad your system is. Everyone's doing great today. So this AMF FFmpg, this is my memorable mention. This is a thing that's specifically for pure AMD users. If you want this kind of setting or something about this, let me know. I can DM it to you. But it's only for a pure AMD system. That's your GPU and your CPU are both AMD products. And all it is a little bit of fine tuning, enhancing some of the perimeters of the stream. AMD has always been a culprit that's had some kind of issues with streaming process over its times. So there's some little the OBS connection. Again, we covered rate control, which is going to be CBR. We covered bitrate, which I'd recommend a minimum of 2500. And again, that's all based off of your upload speed. Come on, are we back, Younow? Are we here, baby? So anyways, though, once you have these settings set in, you would actually go ahead and you could hit apply if it's not an option. Obviously, your first time setup, you would hit apply. That way it saves everything you did. You're not going to lose it. And then if you hit OK, it's going to just close it all down. So before you hit OK, then I would come over to audio. This is another very important place then. So we have set up our internet connection that's going to be allowed for OBS. This is going to let us set up our audio connections for OBS. So obviously mine is way different. I literally am only using a speaker because I have a physical mixer that it does everything for me. So most of the time you're only going to do 2 settings in here for most of your basic setups. Desktop audio is going to be your standard speaker. If you're on a laptop, it's going to generally be default. That's going to be just your built-in speaker. If you have a USB speaker or a Bluetooth speaker you can connect to, that can also be chosen here as well. Just always keep that in mind. This is where you want your sounds to come out of, for you technically. And then of course, if you have the actual physical mic that you plug in, a USB mic, a condenser, you know, that's where you would set this setting in. Again, if you're trying to go off of basic built-in webcam mic, please don't. But if you have no choice, I mean, there's ways you can make it sound okay. I'd recommend even like a cheap $20 plug-in mic you can go buy at Walmart would be anything better than a virtual cam mic, I promise. Just saying. But so then you would select your mic right here. So generally microphone is going to be the name of the microphone that you're going to be selecting here. So like microphone Razer Siren X or microphone AMD streaming audio device. Again, that's a special setting I have. Basically, you would just hit default if you're going to use a built-in mic. You're just going to use whatever you have set, or if you've already set up your mic, default is the choice that will pull what your mic is already set in your computer prior to streaming. Correct. And you can even get away with something if it's a nice headset mic with a 3.5mm jack that can plug in. There's some nice ones that can even produce some good ass quality audio, you know. Anything literally, like I said, even a cheap $20 mic from Walmart it's because the echo that kicks in, the sound pickup of a voice cam mic. It's only picking up the sounds. Well, it's made to be a pure audio, an auditorial pickup. So most of your voice mics are meant to pick up in a conference. Conferences happen all the way around, so it's listening all the way around. If your setup is not soundproof or very sound resistant, you speaking very loud in an empty room, that echo reverbs. The reverb comes back. You have another transition of an echo from the back side, the left side, the right side. So it's coming in like you're in a dome, like you're in a tunnel, like you're on speakerphone on your car phone type thing. You know, it's that sound. And that's what I was saying. I was like, if you actually have to use your webcam mic or built-in mic, there are some filter settings that can make it not sound as echoey or, you know, canceled out. Worst case scenario, there's a will, there's a way. There is technically ways of making crap even somewhat look pretty, you know, so trust me. By all means, I'm not out here to try to tell people or make, you know, them upgrade. You know, there are a lot of ways that we can do stuff fairly cheaply and still produce some really decent quality, based on what we're working with, you know. Basically, this is your basic setups though. Again, in OBS, we're going to settings. We want our stream key set in here for Younow. Our output settings, again, based on how well your PC stuff is, hardware or software. Your main important factors are CBR for rate control, your bit rate, no less than 2500, and I would say as a good general rule of thumb, probably for this platform, no more than 5000 for Younow. I would keep a keyframe interval of 2 seconds. Preset quality, we want to make sure that's at balanced. Profile, again for universal setups, I would set it as either high or like main baseline. If you are planning on doing like gaming and stuff, main generally has potential of stealing resources from your games because it's going to try to take all the resources to make sure this runs as smooth as possible. It can cause some general issues. B-frames, I would recommend between 0 and 1. I would start with 0 first. If you want to see if it causes a little extra fine tuning, try to set it to 1. And then our audio settings, you just want to make sure there is a speaker setup here, either A by default or a USB or Bluetooth connected speaker. This way you're able to hear sounds and know what kind of volume levels you're producing out and shooting off to your streams. And then your mic would go into your standard mic here. So generally, if you have a mic that's already set up, default for that. Or you can particularly specify what your mic name is based on which one you are using. And it would just be labeled microphone. And then in here, I think that's really it for these settings. You really don't, these are more like fine tweaking settings and stuff of that nature. Sample rate at top, I think by default OBS is 44. I recommend the 48, which is the higher audio spectrum. Again, I think it helps because I'm just a super low talker, so I'm trying to get whatever bang I can out of my voice. Yeah, you use 48? Yeah. I mean, it's just a way to try to get the best quality of whatever your product is out there. You know, it's the best rule of thumb for that. And then we'll just do a vague cover of the canvas. Most default, I do believe, is going to be set up as the 1080, so 1920 by 1080, and you want to keep these the same. Again, this can make a difference though based on your system. If you know you don't have the greatest graphics card, and you're really focusing just using only your CPU for streaming, I probably would downscale this one level below, and you're only going to downscale your output. And that's what's getting produced to us here as viewers. So 720 is the highest as of right now that Younow will let you produce. So I would set it as the 1280 by 720, which will downscale it down for you automatically. And again, that will save you a lot of resources. It'll save you a lot of strenuous pull on your data and stuff too. Visual that will show that for you guys. But stay tuned, and we will be right back. Their summary of what we were just kind of explaining right before in our break. It does state, set that quality profile high, max B-frame 1, keyframe 2. Any additional settings you may have for your particular kind of encoder. And then once those are set, you go over here to your video section. Obviously, of course, based on what settings you have set and the kind of stream you're going to be pushing. If it's going to be 1080, obviously put it in by 1920 by 1080, both for your canvas and your output. Of course, you know, if you are streaming or the system's not necessarily the strongest or your internet's not the greatest, you can do this output section here and actually set and rescale that recommended down to at least you go over here to your video section. Obviously, of course, based on what settings you have set and the kind of stream you're going to be pushing. If it's going to be 1080, obviously put it in by 1920 by 1080, both for your canvas and your output. Of course, you know, if you are streaming or the system's not necessarily the strongest or your internet's not the greatest, you can do this output section here and actually set and rescale that recommended down to at least the 720. So you would be recording and pushing everything at 1080, being downsized to a 720, which therefore will reduce your resources, reduce the load, and keep things running pretty smooth. Once you have all that done, hit OK. Start streaming. On Younow side, then you're hitting start stream on OBS side. Then the last step, you'll go over here. You will see the go live will actually turn bright green like this. Once you hit start stream on OBS, that highlights green, so you can actually. So yeah, so that's basically like your OBS setup. So it's going to get you connected to here on Younow. That's going to get your OBS connection going to and forward. as far as like getting that initial setup, if you're not really sure what to do for scenes, basically webcam and mic would be like your two most important things to have on that scene, and just start from there. To be like 100%. So we'll see if I can display capture, show my whole thing, get this bigger. There you go. So like here, so scenes are going to be here on the left hand. Oh, I have Project Hope. Let me get rid of that. Can't see it, you know, so scenes here are going to be under the, obviously the section that's called scenes. And it's so weird after those little, you would have like, this is like your starting soon scene, your be right back scene, or intermission scene is what it's also known as. Okay. Just thought we were tweaking for a minute there. So like this is my game scenes, and it was specifically set for Younow game because, well, moving over here we were on other platforms and I didn't want to destroy those scenes I had set up without setting one up over here first, you know, so just in case I had to resort back. It was my biggest thing. So to set things in these scenes, they're going to be called sources. Basically, biggest one you want to have added in here is going to be your audio input capture. That's going to be your mic. That's going to give you control of like your mic audio from what we hear as viewers. Other than that, it's going to be your camera. Camera is going to be considered a video capture device. So like when you go into audio input capture, we'll go for the mic setup. You would click it, create whatever name you want to name for it, and we're going to hit OK. And you have a few settings under here. Generally, default, if you have your mic already set up, it should pull it. Otherwise, I would look for it and specify what exactly the name of your mic is and set that setting there. What that's going to do is give you the option. So like my mic, I see the audio setting levels of it when I'm talking. And I can adjust these accordingly if people are like, whoa, you're like way too loud or too soft, or within my means anyways, I can control the audio for the most part. And then your webcam setup, it's going to look very similar. They said though it's going to be the video capture device. So under video capture, again, name it whatever it is. This is also where you would set up capture cards. Things of that nature. And then once you hit that, that's going to be webcam. So that's how I'm able to control my web camera now here. If you want to use the snap camera filter, if you have like an anime's virtual cam filter, polypop camera filter, these would be where you would select these particular things as well. You would just select the name of your camera. So like me and mine, you know, the Logitech Brio, probably have like a C920, 922, you know, is another real most common one. Razer, was it Rio, I think is the other cam. Elgato face cams, you know, any of that sort. You just want to set your web camera here. You'll see it display to let you know you've grabbed the right one. For the most part, you leave the device default. It should set your settings. Otherwise, you can come down to custom. And that's where you would specify it. So if it wasn't full, like 1080, it was only doing 720, you would change it right in here. Or whatever settings are available based on your settings. Highest FPS is generally preferred. You can set it to, you know, specifically 60 or higher, you know, based on your cams. A lot of this is going to be just default based on your cameras. Most cameras won't need a lot of these settings. Again, for my example of like a Brio, there's a couple settings that, you know, I do put in because capabilities and stuff that it's able to do, you know. And then I do recommend hardware decoding on it, so that way in the event it just kind of gives a lot of those resources to that cam, so it's maintaining the most potential out of it. And if it needs that little oomph, it's grabbing it from your hardware. So it's always kind of like a nice little feature. So webcam, and generally it's going to be full screen because you set it to, you know, if you set it to 1080, well, our canvas, if you remember, is 1080 size. So that's the size of this whole square that we have to mess with on this scene. And that goes with any of these scenes. So if I'm on the Younow scene, that's this scene here. That's pretty much what's on this scene. I have just the camera as the main scene. I have some graphic overlays that I added in under images, one's a video, and we have some browser sources that are also displaying a lot of our things. So it's just all creations in the scenes. And then my mic, of course, is so you guys can hear me. We have the music playing, you know, these are all audio sources, things we're putting in. But just basically getting up and going. Webcam, I mean, if you're not doing a webcam, you're just showing like game, you know, footage and stuff of that nature, then obviously you want the video source to be showing what you're going to be providing content for, you know, whether it's on your PC or if it's whether through a console. You want to create that portion of the scene, you know. There are tons of overlay templates out there to get what certain things look like for any of your scene differences. So that way you have ideas on what to use, and literally some of the templates, it just takes you changing the username, changing the social names over, switching up the colors, and boom, now it's yours. You know what I mean? That's the purpose of what they were meant for, so. Alright, so we did that, bitrate. Perfect. So with those settings though, that standard connection, you have your webcam set up, you have your mic set up, is going to go ahead and get you pretty much in the general direction of getting stream started, really on any platform, you know, more specifically here on Younow's platform. It's kind of like the big, you know, prior purpose of all this. And then you can obviously add a lot of these little fancy gizmos and gadgets and stuff that we do, you know, along the ways. We can go in further details, you know, and stuff, but a lot of that entails like the chatbot and things of that nature. So, which I think we do plan on covering chatbot some point a little bit here. So, I believe the next step is going to be virtual camera. So with virtual cam, again, we have our OBS setup. This is alternative ways you can stream on Younow. One, you can technically use OBS virtual cam or Streamlabs virtual cam and have all these scenes set up, everything set up on the OBS side. So you're using the abilities and capabilities of OBS without actually using like OBS per se. So that's where we looked at earlier in the video. When you go to click on go live on Younow, you have your two options. Your top option, that's going to be where you have it. Let me see if we can pull that back up. That top option is where you're going to be able to stream from a virtual cam, you know, any of that.